Okay, so this is just a 3-minute video showing you my room, how my table and my backdrop is set up and my lighting. Really simple. Like I say, it's only 3 minutes, and it's a taped video, so you can ask me about it when it's finished.
This is my home studio where I shoot my still lifes. And as you can see, I have lots of treasures or junk, whatever you want to call it, that I use for my still lifes. I go to a lot of flea markets and garage sales, thrift stores, wherever I can find them. I was a big junk collector even before I started doing still lifes. What happened is COVID started, and I had never done still life. And I don't even know what, I think just boredom got me started with it. So I set up a little tabletop on our patio and did a couple of shots there. And recently we moved into a bigger house, and I was lucky enough to have this room that I could set up as my studio. So the setup is simple. I've got great natural light coming through my window on the right, and I've got a Westcott light that I've got set up. I like one directional lighting on my subject because I like the shadows that it creates. I think it gives the photo more dimension and makes it more interesting. Now, my setup for the table, this dark gray table, is about 3.5 by 4.5 feet. And sometimes I shoot directly on it, but quite often I use these boards that I get from Hobby Lobby. They work great to simulate an old tabletop, and they come in lots of wood grains and some different colors. For my backdrop, I have a light gray piece of artboard, and I use that about 90% of the time because most of the time I'm going to drop in a texture in Photoshop, and the light gray works great for that. Now I've got a paintbrush and an air canister here because I use it to brush off debris when I'm shooting still life, because you really don't see it with your naked eye, or maybe I don't see it with my eyes. But when I get into Photoshop, I end up editing 30 or 40 specks off my photo, which is just time consuming. And when I started using the brush and air canister, it really eliminated a lot of that. So here's my camera setup. I'm using a Canon R5, which I absolutely love, by the way. And I've got a Canon 24-70 lens on the camera. And I probably shoot between 50 and 70 millimeter most of the time. So I've always got the camera on a tripod because I want to use a really slow shutter speed to get a low ISO. And I would guess I would say I like between f8 and f11. So it's a simple setup. I don't think you need a room to do it in. You could do it in any corner of your home. Most of this room is taken up with my props, but I do love having my own little space to do this in. So that's it. And if you have any questions, you can ask me in the live portion of this webinar.
Okay, good. All right, so let's do the part where we set up this for Lightroom. This is a really simple still life that I did. You know, still lifes are simple because they're not moving. It's not hard. There's no movement at all. And you've got your camera on a tripod. So you can use such a slow shutter speed, whatever kind of light you have. And what I left out of my videos, sometimes I shut my blackout drapes, and I've been trying light painting and maybe use the drapes shut and then use the Westcott light for more intense shadows. So, you know, that's all trial and error with your photos. But the hard part is the composition. Now, this is obviously very simple, and I just dropped these little leaves here, so not a complicated setup. But the reason I want to show you this one is because I want to show you how simple this backdrop is to drop in. So I always start in Lightroom. And I'm going to go to Photo, Edit, Edit in Photoshop. And this is kind of slow because of the zoom, I guess. Okay, so there it is. So there's my photo, real simple. The first thing I do, I look at my photo and I see if there's anything I want to take off. And I go to the spot healing brush tool and I take off anything that I don't like, any specks that, okay, this one doesn't have very much wrong with it. So that's it. Doesn't have a lot of problems. So now I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to go to sky replacement tool. Now, normally, if you watch videos on how to replace a background, you're going to do a, what's it called? Where you capture the image and, oh, help me, Deborah. What is it called when
Select
you?
subject.
Yes, select subject and then put it on top of the background image. But I did sky replacement once and I thought, well, why won't it replace a texture as easily as it will replace a sky? And so I tried it and it worked beautifully. And
Wow.
it will find your background absolutely perfect. So I'm going to click on OK. Now, all of these little tools right here on the sky replacement box, I don't use them because they don't work very well for this. And Photoshop seems to find the shift edge and the fade edge, wherever it places it, I leave it because I've worked with it back and forth. It doesn't make it any better. So I'm going to click OK. There's my image. It's almost perfect. The only thing it will not do is see a little of the texture through the bottle. So I'm going to go to the brush tool. I'm going to put my opacity about, let's say 42%. You're going to make sure over here on the right side, you're on the mask. And you're going to make sure your brush is on white. Now, what I want to do, actually for this bottle, I'm going to put my opacity at about 22%. Because you'd be able to see through the bottle. So I'm going to paint some of my background through. See how a little of the texture background's coming through the bottle now. And so that's it. It's that simple. So now I'm going to flatten my image. I'm going to go over to this little panel on the right-hand side where those 3 or 4 lines are. I'm going to flatten my image. I'm going to go up here to File, Save, and it's going to take me back to Lightroom. And there it is. Now, from this point, you can do anything that you want to this picture. You can add clarity, you can dehaze, contrast, you can make it more gold, do anything you want in Lightroom. So real simple setup. Now, the next photo that I want to show you, it's going to be the same thing, but a little more difficult. Here's a picture of just some grapes hanging on a scale. And before I go into Photoshop, I want to take out some of the shadows, even though I like shadows. So I'm going to go to my brush tool and I'm going to get the brush and I am going to just do some of these shadows right here. I go over here to shadows, reduce them a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to go up to photo, edit in Photoshop. So there's my photo. And I want to repair any spots on it first. So I'm going to go to the spot healing brush. And I'm just going to go over these lines. This tool is amazing. And I'm going to take that little knot out. Sometimes I leave them. Sometimes I erase them. I'm going to take that little spot right there. That little spot right there. Okay, so that looks good. My scale in this one looks a little crooked. And I'm going to show you, you can fix that really with still life. Not everything is perfectly straight. All these old props and everything's kind of goofy sometimes. So I went to liquefy, and I'm going to straighten this scale out just a hair. Every time I did this photo, I'm like, it's just a little crooked. Now, if it's really off, of course, you can fix it. I find round things aren't always round. So there, it's straight. I'm going to do okay. And for this background, I'm going to go to the same thing, edit, sky replacement. It's going to automatically put in the last texture that I did, but that is not the one that I want. So I'm going to click on that little arrow right there, and I'm going to take this texture. And I probably have 50 skies in my little catalog of skies and backdrops here. And I probably have 100 textures. So you can add textures just like you can add skies. So I'm going to go back and say, okay. But as you can see, it didn't, Photoshop doesn't always do this 100% if there's gaps. So I'm going to enlarge it a little bit. I'm going to go to my brush. I'm going to put it on 42%, 41% is fine. Be sure you're over here in the right-hand corner, and be sure you're on your layer mask. And I'm going to be sure my paintbrush is on white. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paint in what Photoshop didn't get for me. Now I'm doing this really fast, so it's not going to be perfect. And you would do it a little better if you were working on your photo. Now you can see I'm going over the lines a little bit, and right in here, it needs a little more. It didn't really do 100%. Too much. Now, if you do 100% here, what happens is this. And I don't know why, because it's 100% up here, but when you do 100% down here, it doesn't work. Okay, so now to get out where you went over the lines, you're going to put your opacity to 100%. You're going to go to black. You're going to still be in your layer mask over here on the right. And you're going to just go in this, and you're going to color out. I'm going to make this bigger. You're going to color out, erase where you went over. Again, doing this quickly, but it works so well. A lot of times you don't even have to do this. It just finds the outline so perfectly. And right here, I needed to add some, I can go back to white. You can go back and forth 50 times and add and subtract your texture. So, and right here, I'm going to go back to 100% and put the paintbrush on black because my grapes have a little, oops, didn't go to 100%. 100% because my grapes right here have some texture over them. So that looks pretty good. You get the idea. And let me fix this little place right here. Okay, so that's about it. Now I didn't fill in this little spot on the grapes, and I'll show you why. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to flatten my image because I've done what I want to do with the sky replacement. So I'm going to flatten the image. And I let my texture overlap a little on my line right here for the tabletop, just because I like the way it blends into the tabletop instead of having a sharp line. So I'm sure you all know how to clone, and I'm going to go to the clone tool. I'm at 100% opacity, and I'm just going to take a small brush, and I'm just going to clone in some grapes right here. Sometimes it's better to just fake something than try to fix it. So you can kind of make it work. I'm not going to play with it a lot because it'll take too long, but you get the idea. So I made a mess of that, but I'll start over. You get the idea. Okay, that's better. And over here, I'm going to take some of that dark grape and I'm going to fill it in. You're not going to see it. And I'm doing this really quickly because for time reasons, obviously. So there's my photo finished. Now I can go back to the spot healing brush and I can take out any of these little background, little spots if I don't like them. Anything that's a distraction, you're going to take out. At least I like to take them out. And so that's it. I mean, it's that simple. How long did it take? And I was doing it really fast. So I'm going to go to File, Save. It's going to take me back to Lightroom. And I now like to do some adjustments. I'm going to add a little contrast. I'm going to darken my shadows a little bit. I'm going to dehaze it a little bit. And I'm going to get the brush tool. And this is where shadows are important to me. I'm going to get the brush tool and I'm going to start brushing in highlights. And again, I'm doing this really quickly just to give you the idea. I'm going to lighten that a little bit, lighten the grapes. And I'm going to push K to get a fresh brush. And I'm going to do it a little more. Again, really sloppy. And my grape, okay, I grew these grapes in my yard. I'm so proud of these grapes. I got like 3 clumps of grapes and I was thrilled. So I'm going to give them a little more purple and a little more magenta because they were really purple. And I'm going to go back to my brush. And I'm going to brighten the face a little of this scale. Now, all my props, like I said, I'm a junk collector. I got this one at a flea market for $20. That's probably the most expensive prop I've ever bought. So I'm going to get a new brush, push K, and I'm going to create some more highlights down here. Everywhere there's light on this, I'm going to add light. Again, really sloppy for time reasons. And I'm going to get a new brush and I'm going to darken the shadows. So everywhere there's shadows, I'm going to make more shadows. And I'm going to darken those. See? And then I'm going to get a new brush and I'm going to take this big shadow over here and I'm going to darken that. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to get out of brush tool and I'm going to darken my blacks because that scale is black. And I'm going to take a little of my shadows back out. And there you go. That's my finished product in Photoshop and Lightroom. But there's one more step if you want to. I can go to Photo. I love filters in Topaz and Nick. And sometimes I use On One. Most of the time it's Nick or Topaz. I'm going to click Edit. It's going to take me to Topaz. I'm going to go to my favorite filters that I have. And I'm going to use a landscape watercolor. Okay, so there's my picture with this really strong filter on it. Let me make this page bigger. But down here at the very bottom, it says Effect Opacity. You can take that down. I'm going to take it to about, that looks good, 33%. I'm going to click on Save. And it's going to take me back to Lightroom. I always start in Lightroom and I always end in Lightroom. And there's my photo, but I, of course, want to do more to it. Okay, where did it go? There it is. Everything's a little slow with this Zoom business. Okay, so there it is. And I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna bump up the clarity a little bit. I'm gonna darken my blacks a little. And there's my finished photo. Now, many other filters that I could have used to change it. Here's the one I just did. Here's a black and white version of it. Here is let me see if I can get my original. And what I just did. So, and I did that pretty quickly. I probably would have spent about 30 minutes on this photo if I was doing it 100%. But see what a difference the shadows make down here, here. It just gives it more character. So any questions? Did everybody follow my edit? It's pretty simple.
Can you
Great
hear us?
job.
Yes? Okay. Steve, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Deborah, but I can't hear
Oh,
you.
okay. Well, then I'll just talk.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I loved your edit.
Okay.
I loved your edit. So I have several comments. Number one, the sky replacement to add your texture. I feel like I've tried that, but maybe you have to have a super like blank background for it to work, because I've had it say can't detect sky.
Yes, and sometimes it will say that it's not 100%.
Oh, okay, but
And if
it's great.
But I would say 90% of the time it works.
Yeah.
No,
we
it's
tried
great.
that. We tried that the other day on one of my photos, and
Yeah.
it just couldn't.
Yeah,
Follow.
yeah, I think
It-
it's when you have that really blank space. But I tell you, you're I guess you would call it dodging and burning with your shadows and your highlights.
It's
You're an artist at that.
so quick.
Great job.
Well, thank you. I look at it like it's an oil painting. I started
Yeah.
with this,
No,
and then I paint a little here, and I paint a little here, and I paint a little in here, and then I'm done.
no,
Now,
that's terrific.
here's my last edit of the same photo. Different, completely same photo, but different edit. Same process, but I used a different filter in Topaz and a different background.
Yeah, no, that's great. Excellent.
Okay, so do you want me to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's see if anybody has any other
Ooh.
comments. If you can't speak for whatever reason, you can always type it on the comment screen and I'll pick it up.
I see people are muted.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying they
Uh-huh.
can type in their comments too in chat.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That
On
was
the
great. That was great.
On the sky replacement, what you need a fairly uniform color background for it to work.
well, that's why I use the light gray. The light gray works great. It'll also work with a white wall or a beige wall, but the light gray seems to work the best for me. And I'll
But this
show
is
you-
a good example. It'd be very hard to say select subject to get the outline on this one.
Okay, so this one, I'm gonna do the exact same thing. You basically have seen how it works. And it works the same on every single one. But I just want to show you, if I go to edit, sky replacement, now I'm in Photoshop, and I'll just use the same sky. But the way it does this, I don't think you could do this by pasting it on there. And I can go to, let me push OK. I can go to my layer mask. I can go here to black, and I can go to my paintbrush. There's 4 things. You have to be on white or black right here. You have to be on the paint brush, the brush tool. You have to work your opacity right here. I'm going to be at 100%. And you have to be on your layer mask over here in the right corner. So those 4 things. One thing is not right, it will not work. But I'm going to, can you see where I'm taking it off? and I'm doing this really fast. I usually enlarge it, but you can take it off, and sometimes it's even okay to leave it on. But you can take it all off those little twigs. But honestly, I think it would take forever to do a photo like that. And this was a setup that I did. I set this fruit up and it looked kind of plain Jane to me. And so I'm like, well, what do I have? What do I have? I went out in my yard and it was the dead of winter, and I picked these twigs off a tree and threw them behind there, and ended up being more interesting. So I want to go to this one though. Let me find my this one. Okay. Any questions? There's 2 chats, but I can't see what the questions are. Oh, there we are. Good job, Terry. Nicely done. Oh, thank you. Okay, so this one's a little more difficult. So I've got to go into develop in Lightroom, and I kind of want to take the shadows out of this one just so I get a little more brightness over here. And I'm going to go to photo, edit in Photoshop. And this one, I'm going to, again, do it really sloppy, but you'll get the idea. Now for this one, my tabletop was a little short, so I'm going to go to the clone tool.
Let me interrupt for 1 minute. If you
Yes.
have comments to Terry in chat, send them to TOPG Zoom and I'll relay them to her because she may not see it while she's running her demo.
Do you want to unmute them so they can ask me
Well, they
questions?
can
while-
unmute themselves,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but some of them don't have mics.
Okay. So I'm going to extend the tabletop right here. I'm very intimidated now that I know Debbie's watching because she's a master at Photoshop, but I did learn from taking her 2 classes. Her and Deborah are the 2 people who probably taught me the most. And
Well,
I'm showing them how I do this kind of like.
Debbie forgot what I know.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to the spot healing brush and I'm taking out some spots. Any little specks that you're going to take out, there's a speck there on the glasses. I like to do it before I edit the photo. You can do it after, but I just kind of like to look at them real quick. Now, I don't like the glare that I have on this glass, and I'm just going to use the spot healing brush to
Wow,
kind of
that worked
diffuse it a
good.
little. Glass is also probably the hardest thing to do a still life with because you get all the reflection. Now, I would fill this in a little bit better with the clone tool or do the reverse of the clone of this. I'm not going to do it right now because it'll take time. So I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to go to liquify. And this is such a perfect example of how you can straighten, because I really found there's so many things in still life that aren't straight. And I don't know if I'm hypersensitive to it, but okay, even this little thing was something I bought for $1.99 at a thrift store. And it's so ugly. Someone spray painted it silver and it's hideous, but I'm going to show you. I did one little thing to it and made it look pretty good. Whoops, I grabbed my wood there. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, well, you get the idea. You have to be careful that you don't grab another part of the photo when you're straightening things. I'll push that in a little. Okay, so that's pretty good. You get the idea, and you can make this skinnier or wider or whatever you want to do. My candle's crooked, so I'm gonna straighten my candle. Okay, so I'm gonna do okay. And I'm going to drop in my texture. So I'm going to go to edit, sky replacement. And I don't even know how I figured out that sky replacement worked, but I did. And for me, it just works perfect for me every time. Well, 90% of the time. Okay, so there's a background and I'm using glass. So again, I'm going to, well, first I got to do okay. I'm going to go to the brush tool. I'm going to be on white. I'm going to go to about let's say 28%. Kind of, you just have to see how it looks. I'm on my mask layer. And I'm just going to fill in some of this. Okay, I wasn't on white. Sometimes when you go over and click your mask layer, it kicks you back to white. It kicks you back to black. But you want to kind of see. And this is tricky with glass because you want to see your glass. And if you take out too much, I'm going to go to black and try to take it out a little bit along the line there. Maybe a little more. Just so I can see a little bit outline of the glass. There would probably be reflection there anyway. And I'm going to take any that went on the candle. And so you'll see in my finished product, the glass looks a little bit better. But for right now, I'm going to leave it like that for time's sake. I'm going to go back to white again, and I'm going to put in my texture that didn't go in right here. And right here. And right here. And it missed a little right here by the books. Now, if you do it real carefully, you don't even have to go in with the black and fix it because it finds all those places pretty well. I went over right there a little bit. So I'm going to go to 100%. And I'm going to take this out. Okay, so it looks pretty good. You get the idea. We're going to flatten the image. If you don't flatten the image, it won't really work very well. I'm going to go to File, Save. It takes me back to Lightroom. My candle's now straight, kind of. And oh, one thing I forgot. Let me go back to Photoshop real quick. Okay, I flattened my image. One thing I want to show you again, I don't like this line that's on here, so I'm just going to take that out with the spot tool. And anything else that I don't like there. Anything that's a distraction. So that's good for now. I'm going to go to File, Save. It's going to save it for me. Some of the textures I like, but they have some weird spots on them. So, oh, I forgot something else. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible instructor. I want to put steam right here in the coffee. So I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. I've got lots of overlays. I'm going to take my steam number 18 and I'm going to place it right there over the coffee. I'm going to push the Shift key to make it bigger, wider. Let's make it a little wider. So there's my steam. I'm going to push Enter. I'm going to go over here where it says normal over to the right. I'm going to click on it and put it on screen. And I'm going to do about 50, go to the opacity. I'm going to do about 45%. Now, because I have a line where my overlay is, I'm going to make a layer mask right here. And I'm on that mask. I'm going to go to the brush tool. I'm going to go to black to take the line out. And I'm going to be at 100%. I'm going to take that line out. And I'm going to go to about 65%. I'm going to take some more of the line out. And I'm going to go to 26% and take a little more out. Try to make it look like steam coming off the coffee. You get the idea. And you can also take your brush. It's at 26%. So I can take out a little bit of the steam here and there where it's a little strong. Reduce it however I want. So there. Now I'm going to flatten the image again. You're always going to flatten your layers. I'm going to go to Lightroom. And there's my steam. I always forget to put the steam in. So there's my steam. Now I'm going to darken this photo a lot. It's got a little too much pink in it. I'll put a little yellow in. And I'm going to go to the brush tool. And I'm going to make some glow for the candle. I'm just going to add some yellow there and take the exposure up just a tad. And I'm going to go back to basic, and I'm going to maybe add a little, this is where I just start painting, maybe a little vignetting. And I'm going to get the brush tool again. And I kind of am all over the place at this point. I'm just looking at the photo thinking, what should I do to it next? So I'm going to lighten the books right here. And I'm going to lighten this half of the coffee cup. I'm going to get a new brush. It's best if you get a new brush every time you start on a new subject. And I'm going to lighten that. And I'm going to give it a little light here. And I'm going to get a new brush by pushing K. And I'm going to darken some of my shadows. I'm going to darken this right here. I'm going to get a new brush. I'm going to darken that some more. Again, quick edit. I was going to show you, I'm going to get a new brush by pushing K. I'm going to show you what I did to this hideous little silver thing I bought. I'm going to brush on this. And I'm going to make it more yellow to look like pewter, including the handle. Again, I'm doing this really fast. I played with it a lot. And I'm going to up the texture. And that's not too bad, maybe too much yellow, just to make it look more like pewter instead of a spray can of silver paint on it. So with the brush tool, I'm going to add a few more highlights here. And some right here. New brush, and I'm going to darken this and this. And some of these are probably kind of exaggerated, but the shadows really make a difference. I'm even going to do this under here. And this right here and this. So I've added some shadows there. And that's about it. So there's my photo. Actually, I kind of going to get a new brush. I don't like how pink this candle is. So I'm going to get some more yellow in there because it would probably glow anyway. And I'm going to take the saturation down just a hair, just so it doesn't look so pink. And there's my photo. So I'm finished with it in Lightroom for now. I go to photo, edit in Topaz, edit. And for this one, I'm going to pick I've got a lot of favorites, so I will use, well, I'm going to use this one because it's a little more severe. And it's too much, but I'm going to reduce it a little. And save it. And where is it? There it is. Everything's so slow.
Don't worry about it. You're doing fine.
Am I going too fast or talking too fast?
I don't
Perfect.
think so.
Okay, so it's going to do it one more time.
If anything, it's just a little embarrassing how fast you do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like it's so easy that I'm like, this is so easy. I feel embarrassed even teaching this because I feel like it's
No.
so basic.
Practice makes perfect.
Come on, where is it?
It's coming. Patience.
There it is.
There it is.
Whoops, it went to the other one. There it is. Wait, is it that one or is it that one? Sometimes it's very slight what I
It
do.
is.
I want to go to Topaz one more time and see if it will. I'll do canvas paper instead. It's a little softer. Okay, I like that. It makes the glow look a little bit better. So I'll do that one and see if that won't work. Okay, well, there it is. Okay. Ugh, I don't know why it's doing this.
It's loading.
Okay, I think that's it. Softer. Now I go back to develop again. And again, I add more contrast, dehaze, whatever I want to add to it. Oh, wait, I'm dehaze. I could take some of my shadows out. I'm going to take, it's a little orange, so I'm going to go down here to next to HSL color and take a little of the orange out of that book. But pretty much that's it. Now the one that I worked on probably took me again, hour, half hour, I don't know. There's my other one. Now see how clear I made the glass, how much better that is. And it was actually a different texture I used for the background. And I have highlights on the glasses. I tried to accentuate all the highlights and everything, but this little cheap thing came out pretty good. My tabletop works really well. So that's it. Now, I want to go back to my library. Any questions about this part of it at all? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about composition. So for this one that we just did, I always like whatever's hanging. If sun's hanging on this side, maybe a little something else on this side. Now I wouldn't have grapes over here. And I always add flowers, and I added some grapes. I try to just pick one thing to start with, like my grapes were ripe. So I'm like, what can I photograph with the grapes? So I got my scale out, and I did other pictures with the grapes also. I'll show you in a second. Here's my edit that I just did. I had just gotten these old books and trying to figure out what would I put with this? Well, reading by candlelight. I had these old glasses, some old teacups. Everything in this picture is from a thrift store or a flea market. This is an old suitcase somebody gave me recently, and this is a texture background that had a floral theme. And I had some old gloves and pearls, and I just start picking up stuff and putting it together. I have lots of these tabletops from Hobby Lobby for different tabletops. The grapes you saw. Now this is, when I said I started on my patio, this is my old house that we were living in temporarily for a year. We had to rent a house for a year while this one was being built. And I had no room. I mean, we had boxes in our living room. I had boxes in my kitchen. And this is patio furniture all around here. And I had this tabletop. And from that, I got this. And this was that picture. I have won quite a few awards here in Boise and there, and it ended up touring in China. And I did it on my patio. Another scale photo. Let me put them side by side. I just added different texture, hydrangeas out of my yard. I love going outside, picking something out of my yard because it's the cheapest way. This is silk greenery from Hobby Lobby, a spool of thread from the 99-cent store. I love this one because this washboard right here was in a pile of junk at a garage sale with a sign that said free. And I said to the woman, can I have this washboard? Is it free? And she said, take it. And my husband went home and glued it together for me. I bought this little washboard at a estate sale for $3, and it didn't say anything. So I just photoshopped in Acme soap, flowers from my neighbor's yard. And I think anything vintage looks good with a mason jar. And I had an old iron. So piece it all together, and every one of these photos I did with the same technique I just showed you. Flowers, I try to make them a little uneven. And same thing, pottery from a
Oh,
garage sale,
great.
placemat from Target. I bought a baseball at a garage sale for $1. And then I had to start looking for a mitt. So I found this mitt for $3 at a flea market. And then my husband had this little flag picture. And I found a little jar and put some pennies in it and called it a penny for every home run. This was a Bible. This was my mother's Bible. My mother's passed years and years and years ago. But I had this old Bible with no cover on it. So I got some other Bibles. Now, initially I laid this flat, but just tipping the Bible up a little bit gave it so much more interest. And I grabbed my husband's rosary beads, the same ugly candle holder, and some glasses. This one, this is laying on a mirror, and I poured water over the iris, dropped a texture background in, and that's what I came up with.
Nice.
More grapes. Let me see. There's my after. More grapes from my yard, bottle from a thrift store. This is just a different kind of edit. I wanted it to be kind of Tuscany looking. Another typewriter photo. This was one I thought I'll call it her first novel. So I started thinking, if I was writing a novel, what would be next to me? Well, I'd probably be a chain smoker. I definitely have some wine with some lipstick on it. And somebody from TO Group said it would have been more realistic with typewriting on the papers. And I so agree, but I didn't think to do that. And I want to reshoot this with typewritten letters on there, but I just
Gonna have to smoke a lot again.
Yeah, no kidding. It made me sick lighting that cigarette. And this is smoke that I patched in. It's not real smoke. Very hard to photograph smoke, I think, in this kind of setup. Because this is a light gray background and it just didn't show. I huffed and puffed on them until I made myself nauseous.
That'll teach you.
Take one for the team,
Yeah,
Terry.
I know. There's a chair. I love chairs. These were flowers. My neighbor had a wedding reception. She gave me a centerpiece. So I photograph anything anybody will give me. And another thing that I do, I ask people if I see something interesting in their house, I'm like, can I borrow that and photograph it? And they're kind of flattered and they always give it to me. And the only thing I don't borrow is glass, anything that could break because I'm clumsy, or something that's valuable. I won't borrow. And flowers. Now I have no before of this. So here's my flowers.
Love that.
And I think the texture background you pick makes a difference. I did a lot of lighting and shadows on this one. This is a picture I got from Hobby Lobby. Same picture. I love this picture. Roses. Albertsons had a sale, 4 bunches for $12. There's a reason behind every picture that I have. Scale, I just tried to do something different with some roses. I also ask my neighbors if I can pick flowers out of their yard. They always say yes. I don't ask to, pick flowers out of their prize rose garden or anything, but they've got lots of daisies or sunflowers or lavenders, real popular. So here's another chair. I bought all these chairs for between $2.50 and $5. This one was $2.50 at a thrift store. I wouldn't even sit in it. It's so rickety. Coffee pot came from a garage sale for 50 cents, and the flowers are out of my yard. And all this drapery stuff is from Hobby Lobby. Same chair. We have a lot of flower farms here. You get a bucket and you pick as many as the bucket will hold for $20. And first I photograph it like this, and then I start pulling it apart and photographing them separately. And then I photograph them when they're dead. I make the most of everything in my still lifes, especially when it comes to flowers. And I just wanted to show you my cat, my sweet little kitty, because this sky replacement tool works so well with fur. You have to try it with fur. It is amazing. So there are my cat
Oh,
photos. But when
cute.
you drop it in, it masks around the fur so perfectly. It's amazing. Of course, this one is more severe with topaz, but it's still masked off. Just, I don't think you could do that with select and mask and make it look this perfect.
No.
So there we go. That's it. Any questions about any of the photos or technique or anything? I was pretty good. I stayed within an hour.
Good job.
Do you normally use the artificial light or the window light, natural?
I usually do them in daylight, and I have my Westcott light on 99% of the time. So, and sometimes I shoot at night. Gosh, your subject's not moving. You're on a tripod. You can shoot so slow. The shutter speed can be so slow that you can get a great shot. I really only use the Westcott light for the shadows. Look at these beautiful lights on my cat. I mean, it just makes everything show up so nicely.
So you usually use both, like the window and the light?
Yeah. If I want
Okay.
severe shadows, I shut the window. I have blackout drapes in there and I shut the drape
Okay. All
just
right.
to get more severe shadows. So it's pretty simple. I mean, there's not a lot to it.
Well, I mean, you really know how to accentuate everything you've done. The setup, the shadows, the highlights, amazing.
Well, thank you. I am a big collector of
There's
junk.
two different things. There's the tools, and then there's to know how to use them.
Yeah,
Like, she's
and
been
there's
showing-
the idea, and then
Yeah.
there's the tools, and then there's how to, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All the tools she's using are very, very basic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not hard.
And
That's why I
it's a
keep
bit-
saying it's not hard.
Well, it's hard
Right.
to know how to do it that well. And
it's
even to
it's
do it that
easy if you
quickly.
know how.
You know how, Deborah. But this part, like this picture right here, you know, I did it without this greenery and it just looked too plain. And then I did it with a plainer background. It didn't look like vintagey enough. So I just keep adding things. This picture right here,
Oh, that's beautiful.
this one,
It's beautiful.
these are 3 pieces of pottery that I bought from a garage sale. And the guy said, well, my grandmother died and she made those and I'm selling all her stuff. And I'm like, wow, it seemed heartless to me, but I'm like, yeah, I'll take them $5 for 3 pieces of pottery. And trust me, they're not pretty. They're kind of lumpy.
But your lights and your shadows
Yeah, the shadows made
are
up.
what absolutely makes it great. And, you know, in your textures, and just, you know, everything about it.
But look how plain Jane it is before I add the shadows and everything.
But you have a vision, and that's what we are all amazed at.
And the placemats add a lot of texture. Also,
Yeah,
you can use
that's great.
tablecloths, lace, fabric, mirrors. If you
Mhm.
use fabric, I suggest you iron it because every wrinkle shows. You could drape fabric back here and still drop in a texture. Like this one, you can do something for height.
Mhm.
So if you have a lot of empty space here, it doesn't work. If this had been a little shorter, this would not have worked. I'd have too much negative space right here. So overall, the composition is just, you know,
Oh, see,
whatever
like
you
you
can-
with your book, like not laying it flat. Not everyone can do that. It's amazing.
well, I laid it flat first and shot it and went, something's not right. You know, it doesn't look right.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
I
great.
laid the rosary beads hanging over here. They wouldn't stay. They kept slipping. So I'm just like, okay, try something else. Try something
Beautiful.
else. Sorry, I keep screwing up.
Terry,
Hmm.
you might explain a little bit about your process of how you take a shot and run back and check it and make another and all that.
Okay, let me show you a good, well, this one's a good example. Let me see. Let me find one. Well, like this one, I shot straight on practically. Most of the time, I shoot down a little bit. I shoot maybe at a 15% angle down at my subject. For one thing, I like to see if there's liquid in a cup. I very rarely do I shoot straight on. Like this one, you wouldn't see the liquid in the cup if I had shot it straight at it, level. So, and I set something down and then set something next to it and then something else and see how it works. And until I find what I like, it's kind of like creating a painting for me. I wanted to shoot these washboards and I'm like, what in the heck am I going to do with these washboards? And I went and got this little thing out of my guest room that something was sitting on, and I had an old doily, and I just keep working it till I find something. And then look how crooked these washboards are. They weren't even straight. When my husband glued it together, I'm like, oh, it's not even straight. But I liquefied it and it worked. So
You are so good with liquefy. Oh my gosh.
you know,
You're the liquefy queen.
you got to practice a little, but it's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, no, I'm not good with it.
So, and this one, it never turned down junk that people want to give you, because I swear, I love this little thing. And
I have
she gave me-
something like that.
she gave me 3 suitcases. I actually wanted to shoot with this open, but we're all probably old enough to remember that these have mirrors when you open them.
Ah,
And
horrors.
so it shows everything, you know, either the window or me shooting it or whatever. So I can't open it up.
I
but
like
it's a
your
cute
steam
little
overlays.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
The steam is easy. The overlay process is easy.
Yeah, it's nice.
So
Lots of ideas here.
yeah.
Mhm. Watch out. Nice job.
Anything else? Anybody have any questions about anything in particular, or did I go too fast? And the edit part is so easy. And there's a million different ways to edit this photo. I mean,
I have a question. Is a recording of this going to be available for, I'm a new member and I sure like to watch this again.
The recording will be made available sometime in the near future. Mike is still a little under the weather, so when he feels up to it to make the encoding of the recording that I give him, we'll get it on our site.
That's okay. It's going to be a long winter.
6 more weeks. Says that groundhog.
isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And can I just say that if anybody is trying this and they get stuck, call me. I'm not going to give my number on this video because I may not want people, I don't know who's going to see this or who it's available to, but you can email me your phone number and I'll call you, or you can get my number from Steve or whoever. I'm more than willing to walk you through it. It's not hard. And I'll tell you, when you get to this Photoshop, all you have to remember after you put the background in, the sky replacement, put your background in, to add it into where it missed, you have to be on white, you have to be on this brush, you have to have your opacity set correctly, and you have to be on your mask layer here, which would look
Because
like,
the sky replacement saves it as a layer.
If there's anything I wish Photoshop would have the ability to lock the primary image so that you could only edit the mask. And I don't think you can do that.
yeah. Well, if you're not,
Well, yeah, if you choose the mask,
You
you're
have to
only
choose.
editing the mask.
How many times have you gone and then by accident clicked on the primary image and realized you're painting over the picture itself?
Well, I feel like you would just see that it's not, it wouldn't do anything. I think,
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, that's pretty easy just to undo, Steve.
To a
Yeah,
point,
no,
as long as
It's
you did.
pretty
If
pretty
you're
obvious
not
when
on your mask and you do something, you're gonna be like, oh, something's wrong here.
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't-
I've
And-
been there and yeah, I know sometimes you just get so far in. It would really be a nice feature for them to do that.
the other thing I want to show you is one more thing you can do. This is where I just put the background in, the texture background in, and I filled it in where it didn't fill in, right? But
Mhm.
if you go over here to the texture layer, which is right next to the left of the
To
mask
the primary layer, right?
okay, this is your texture layer right here.
Uh-huh.
You can go up to filter, blur. I'm going to go to Gaussian blur, and you can blur it. See how I blurred out so much, there's nothing
Yeah,
left of it.
that's nice.
So what's nice is that before you go back to Lightroom, you can do whatever you want to do to your texture layer. You can go to filter and go to, let's see, which ones? Distort. And you can,
Distort.
yeah. And I'm
Oh.
going to do twirl,
What
and
are
I'm going
you
to do that.
doing now?
All I'm working on is the background.
What?
So you can change your background. If you don't love the texture, you can change it. You can distort it. You can do anything that's in the filter category to it.
Mhm. Right. You change the color before you even put it in.
Yeah, exactly. You can blur it,
Yeah.
do whatever. So I just want to
Mhm.
know that if people know that you're in that texture layer, you can do that.
So
And
let me ask you this, as far as putting a texture in, like I love the using the sky replacement feature,
Mhm.
but do you ever use just the texture on the whole image and kind of rub it
If I
off
was-
what you don't? So
if I
then
was
it would
gonna
be
do
down
that-
on the table and
Okay, well, let me show you. If I was going to do that, I would go to File. This is what I was telling you, I think yesterday, Deborah. I would go to File, Place Embedded.
uh-huh.
I could go to my texture file. Let's just say this one,
Okay.
Place,
Uh-huh.
and there's my texture.
Right.
And I'll line it up quickly. And I could go to so there's my texture over my picture.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to do that, I could with the whole picture.
Right.
And then I could make a layer mask
Mhm.
and go to brush, go to black, go to 100% if that's what I wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
mask out what I don't want.
Right.
And sometimes I probably wouldn't do it this way. I would probably select and mask and then put it on top of my texture.
Wait, you would
Well,
select?
just like you put two pictures together, you know what I mean? You'd select and mask, but it's
Mhm.
kind of hard when you're doing all these objects. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. It
maybe Debbie
is. I
knows how
just
to do that.
wondered.
But
No, there's so many ways to do it.
yes. And then sometimes
So many
maybe I would do
ways.
that, and then you can go and do File, Place Embedded. I'm going
Which
to get,
I've never used.
let's say, oh, I use it all the time. So
I
there's
know you told me.
there's another texture.
Mhm.
And
There's
I'll
so
make-
many ways to
I know.
skin a cat. I don't know what that means. And that's a horrible thing to say. I don't know who
You're
made
right.
that up. I don't know who made that.
So there's another texture that I just put over it. It's light.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
awesome.
There's
Yeah.
100%. There's
Yeah.
16%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can add as many textures as you want.
Right.
I don't think it will do another sky replacement because with all of this.
No. I thought that was great. Like I've tried to do it before because I was like, why wouldn't this work?
Yeah.
It didn't work for me.
And
But
with
I think it
this-
wasn't blank enough.
Yeah. And also if you want to do File.
Oh, no, I think what it was when I was trying to import textures for skies,
mhm.
it didn't import them. for
Sometimes they
something.
won't. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
You can also go to File, Place Embedded, and I was telling Steve, I have a folder with overlays, so I'm going to go to that. It's always on my desktop. And if I want to add, let's see, add something interesting. Well, I was gonna add bubbles, but I don't see my bubbles.
Oh,
I don't know what I did with them, but let's use these.
okay.
So
Mhm.
there's my bubbles. I'm gonna push enter and I'm gonna go to, no, wrong, it's the wrong overlay. That's not gonna work. I don't know what
Oh.
happened to my bubbles, but I just wanted to show how easy it was to place embedded. Now you can,
That's okay. I'm gonna try it. I think it
well,
would be under B.
here's a sparkle overlay. So here's a sparkle.
Ooh,
I'm gonna click that. There's my overlay of it, and I can make it.
it's cute.
So this might be, coming out of you could make this coming out of the coffee cup, or,
Mhm.
place embedded will give you steam, bubbles, another photo, anything you want. You can use it as background or an overlay.
Okay.
So there is my limited Photoshop knowledge.
It was really great, Terry. Thank you. It
You're
was
welcome.
really good.
Anybody else, any questions about it at all?
I have, chat came in from David Schwartz. He wants to know, have you considered doing more of the lighting in camera, particularly for glass?
What do you mean doing more lighting in camera?
I don't know. I'm just reading the comment.
You mean like a flash, or?
Probably.
David, can you unmute yourself and ask me? I'm not sure what you mean. No?
Trying to see if he's still here.
Oh,
I don't think he is at the moment. I
okay.
assume with you already said you don't use more than the Westcott. You don't add
No, because I don't want lighting on the other side. I don't want to use a flash. I'll get bounce off all the walls. It'll fill everything.
So for your directional light, you're using the Westcott, and for the diffuse lighting, you're using the natural light that bounces around the room.
Yes, and I only need to see a little bit of shadow so I can enhance them, like here
Mhm.
and in the grapes and everything. I only need a little bit. I don't need a lot. This one has more severe shadows, like obviously. More light here on the coffee cup, but I really wanted to make this one reading by candlelight. So I wanted to make it dark. I could have actually given this a little more glow now that I'm looking at it, but I always go back and look at my old photos that I've done. This one was about a year ago, I think. And I always think, oh, I could have done this differently or whatever. So, and I don't even like to look at the still life I did a year ago or two during the
Well,
COVID first started.
we evolve, we change. We change is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
But
all
even
learning.
simple, even
Yes.
simple, like this one, I love this photo. I think I might hang this one
Great.
somewhere in my house.
It's
And
beautiful.
it's so simple. That was my end product. And this
Mhm.
is the one that I did today.
Yeah,
I took
that's
more time
nice.
with this one, but not a lot.
There are endless possibilities.
Yeah. So anyway, pretty simple.
Love it. I loved watching that. Thank you, Carrie.
You're
Any other-
welcome.
Any other questions? So we'll stop sharing.
Terry, this was a beautiful presentation.
Oh, thank you, Roy. That's
Hi,
sweet.
Roy.
Hello, everyone. I have a question for you brilliant artistic types.
Yeah.
I have a collection of much more modern things.
Yes.
I tend toward modern.
Yes.
What kind of backgrounds and textures can you imagine going with more modernistic looking things?
Well, I can tell you right off the bat where you live and the photos that you've taken, Roy, you could take a picture of uh, windows on a high rise and use that as your background. It does not have to be a texture. It could be one of your photos that's the background.
Oh,
As
yeah.
long as you start with that light gray, or it could be the grid of something, or it could be cement. One of my favorite
Concrete.
textures, I didn't even get into this, but you can create your own textures. And one of my favorite ones, this is going to sound really ridiculous, but I was in the bathroom at Home Depot in Boise, and the tile on the wall was so pretty. And so I took a picture of the tile on the wall, and I used that one a lot. And then I have a texture that I used that was the floor. And I don't know if it was Lowe's or Home Depot or where, but there was a certain spot on the floor. That would be great for a modern photo. So I
Go to
take,
bathrooms, Roy, is what she's saying.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
but it could be, your background could be metal. Your background could be metal. It could be, you could put aluminum foil on the wall. You could put, it's endless. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be modern. When I was doing this, I was thinking of Larry White's, I don't know if Larry's still there, but of Larry's photos. His are very, he has such an eye and is so streamlined with everything. And, mine are all vintagey looking and traditional, but they don't have to be that. They could be anything. And your backdrop could be a photo that you've taken, a texture that you've created. Deborah and I were making textures by oil paint, watercoloring, and then take a picture of your watercolor, put it in the computer, and then diffuse them and make them into a background texture.
But you can take a picture of anything and change it too. As long as it had the colors and textures you wanted.
Yeah, I've been crawling around the back alleys of Westwood Village and finding interesting things. And I did see an interesting webinar the other day of a guy who put a clear glass, think of a clear glass bowl or tray on top of a light table, and then he mixed acrylic paint and water, or acrylic paint and alcohol inks, and swirled them around.
Wow, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'll send you guys his name. Maybe
Crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't think it has to be anything difficult
Okay.
to make,
Take a picture-
to make a modern background.
Okay.
Really.
Take a picture of something modern and just make that your
Yeah.
background.
Okay.
And also, I, in the middle of doing still life, maybe I did them for a year. And then about a year ago, I bought Joel Grimes' video on still life, which is phenomenal. And if you look at a lot of his backdrops are photos that he's done, and they're amazing. So, and I highly recommend that video.
Yeah, that Joel Grimes thing. It was, he had a sale on it, and it was inspiring.
Yeah, it's really good.
Mhm,
I think
it
it
was
was
good.
$57 or something.
Yeah, no, it was good. It inspired me, and it it helped me not be afraid of external lighting. I bought my first light after watching that.
Oh, I wanted to say one more thing about the textures. I buy most of them on Etsy. So they're cheap, and you can sometimes get 20 for $5 or 80 for $19 or whatever, but there's tons of them. There's one called All Things Precious, which I think Deborah's gotten to. And they're really
No, I've never used that one.
really.
No.
So anyway, and sometimes you get them free. Joel Grimes gives you some free ones when you buy that class. So there's lots of places to get textures, and if you don't want to buy them, just get out with your camera and start taking pictures of the floor.
Yeah.
And
And you can take one picture and change it 6 or 7 different ways, and it can be different colors, different everything.
Yeah, put the photo in Lightroom. You can go to the sliders right here.
Yeah,
and
or
make the texture really green or really pink or whatever. So
topaz if you have it.
yeah.
Could you repeat the name that you referred to for the first backgrounds? You said Etsy or something like that?
Oh, Etsy, ETSY, Etsy. And then what you do is you put in textures for Photoshop, or background textures for Photoshop, and a ton will come up. But one of the ones I like is All Things Precious. But there are
I've heard that
tons,
term.
and I have not bought any that didn't work well. So some of them are $3, some of them are 5 for $3. Like I said, you can get 80 for $20. I don't buy the ones that are really expensive. I don't buy the ones that are 40 for $50, or because there's just too many of them that are inexpensive.
But there are a lot of people that do textures that give out free ones.
Yeah.
You know, if you sign up for their newsletter, they send out free textures. Like, I get some of those.
And you can Google free textures for Photoshop and see what comes up.
Yeah, as long as you don't
Provide
get
more
it.
than you can put in your computer.
I never stop buying them. I've got tons.
I
and
have
tons
so
and tons.
many.
And,
I have a lot.
and don't you still buy more?
Sometimes I get suckered in.
I know, I keep, they're so cheap.
Because some are, you know, I mean, once you have like 1,000, it's like, well,
Yeah.
they have to be really special to buy more. But yes, I do. I buy them. But there are a lot of free ones, a lot of free Photoshop textures.
Yeah. And if you like flea markets and garage sales and thrift stores, just look for stuff that's cheap, that you can photograph, and look around your house. I've photographed a lot of stuff in my house.
Yeah.
And my friends not only donate to me, but they love pawning their junk off on me and go, yeah, keep it for as long as you want. I've got some old irons that belong to friends. I just tried to give one back, and she's like, could you keep it for a little bit longer? I don't have any place for it. So there's lots of stuff you can use for still life, and putting it all together is just artistic interpretation. Honestly, like this, I wandered around my house. I went out in my yard and picked these, and I'm like, what can I put with this? And notice I took this string and I tied the flowers with it, because I like, if I have this, I like to tie it in someplace else.
Well, you're really good at putting it all together.
Thanks.
So if you go to Meredith Images, that's Hazel Meredith's site.
Yeah.
MEREDITHIMAGES.com. You get a
Mhm.
pop-up saying, get your 12 free textures.
Yep.
Just so you
The
know.
slot-
So there's another one, Jay Johnson. It's JAI Johnson. And if you sign up for hers are completely different than most of the things you'll see. And she's got a bunch of free ones, and once in a while she gives out free things. Hers are interesting.
And also, I'd like to add, this is how I do my still lifes. You know, you can find your own way. Maybe there's an easier way for you to add the background. For me, this has been, I'm not very good at Photoshop at all. So this was a really easy way to drop in backgrounds for me. And I have learned, if you don't do a lot of Photoshop, I have learned one thing at a time, like Google how to do liquify, then how to drop in a
You're good
background.
at that.
So one step at a time, you know, how to use the spot healing brush, which anybody could use, but just one step at a time.
Mhm. Exactly.
Anything else? Anybody have any other questions? I can't wait to see if people in the club do this and try some still life and see what they come up with.